political issues, and its shares fell in after-hours trading. Now, for more on this, let's cross live to Hong Kong and speak with George Chen, partner and co-chair of digital practice at the Asia Group. George, some more impressive numbers from Nvidia. Which ones stood out to you most?
Good morning, Steve. I think you're right. I think for the past quarter, the earnings, result is pretty impressive. The reason why the shares, went down a bit in the post trading hours was, mostly the question about China, as Nvidia didn't include in the H20, sales numbers, in the latest earnings. So that caused perhaps, some concerns among investors.
Yeah, and just on that, there were no China H20 sales in Q2, and their guidance excludes China going forward. How do you see Jensen Huang navigating business in China?
Jensen is doing a fantastic, very challenging job. He's almost like a, business diplomat. As you can see, he, flies his private jet, between Washington, Beijing, and sometimes, also had to make a stop, in Taipei. This is kind of like the triangle relationship, he has to deal with. The China question became suddenly more urgent, after the government, Beijing accused, Nvidia for some sort of security loophole, and then Jensen denied. I think for the time being, Jensen just had to do more, PR work to clarify things. And in the meantime, I also understand, China also wants to get the advanced version for H20. So we will see, sort of, the next season, the next chapter, whether, Jensen can still work with Trump, to get to the advanced version, still, lower version than H100, H20, but certainly China's demand is getting higher.
Yeah, and data centers make up quite a bit of demand for Nvidia's products. But what else is Nvidia working on beyond data centers?
So I'm less worried about the concerns from China, or particularly the data center capacity from China, because if you look at the 46 billion number in terms of revenue, the China factor accounts, let's say even if the H20 sales go ahead very well, and then the data center capacity goes in full force in this part of the world, the H20 will account for like 2 to 5 billion, compared with the total revenue. It's not going to have material impact on Nvidia in the long run. We have to recognize it's still the only AI chip leading company in the world. So over the long run, the demand, as long as I'm more concerned about the Magnificent Seven in the US. We talking about Google, Meta, those companies, still invest. If those companies still invested in AI, the outlook for Nvidia should be still bright.
And George, thanks very much for your thoughts as always. George Chen there from the Asia Group.